This is What Happened This Week. On this episode, going to be breaking down some of the NBA play-in games. It is Friday. I'm chilling, There's still another play-in game today. That's going to be not Indiana, I'm sorry. That was yesterday. It's going to be Golden State against Memphis. And I actually just wanted to get this pod out on time. So I was like, let me just do this. Make sure you are following, liking, subscribing, all of that. I sound like I'm out of breath. I'm a little out of breath. Just got home from working, got to get this done before stream. So, hello everyone. Thank you for stopping by. Hope you stopped by for stream. Again, make sure you're following us, subscribing, whether it's YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, plan_C_podcast. That's where you can find us. Make sure you're listening to previous podcasts. They're all there. Great stuff there. Interviews, anime talk, everything. And let's go. I'm back. So, obviously, again, there's still one last play-in game, to go. But I figured, since they're mostly done already, I would just sort of go over the ones that are already done. So, game 1, Charlotte versus Indiana. There's not a whole lot here. The Pacers had great ball movement. Defense would collapse on Sabonis, and then, Sabonis would pass out to McDermott or, one of their other shooters. And it happened early, and it was such a slow start by the Hornets. And, McDermott hit like 3 threes. And, the Hornets were forcing shots, but they were getting decent looks on pick and roll, They just seemed a step late. Pacers kept attacking Zeller. And, Sabonis was just being fed the entire game. It was kind of crazy to me, though, because, Charlotte is good small. And especially with no Miles Turner, you'd think that, okay, maybe this would be good. But, I don't know. The Hornets just kept attacking the paint over and over. And they sort of showed their youth by not being ready. Charlotte wasn't communicating on defense. They were down big at some point. I sat down and sort of just took notes the entire game, and past a certain point, I was like, because at the end of the day, it was a fucking blowout. And, it's not that I don't enjoy blowout basketball, but I don't know. At the 7-minute mark, I literally wrote in my notes, I said it's 124-94 at 7 minutes. I'm done watching. And at another point, I said, do I have to keep watching? Down 30 in the fourth. Charlotte went home. I think if I was a betting man, I probably wouldn't have put money on Charlotte. But, disappointing nonetheless for them. Next game of the night, it was Boston versus the Wizards, the classic St. Louis Bowl. If you don't know, Bradley Beal and Jason Tatum, both from St. Louis, went to the same high school, have been competing each other for a long time. So that was a whole thing. Celtics didn't have Jaylen Brown. So that was, tough on the Celtics. In the first half, it was a pretty close game. Kemba looked really good. Both teams were playing with pace. The basketball was sloppy, but Boston was showing more effort. Beal took on Tatum for most of the game, and I don't know. I found that there's good ball movement by Boston. Beal seemed to be laboring with a hamstring injury. I don't know. At one point in the first quarter, it was 0-12 in favor of Boston in terms of points off of turnovers, and when your star is injured, you need somebody else to go to, and Westbrook didn't have it that night. Ish Smith, he was great in the pick and roll. He's a great spark off the bench. Gafford saw early foul trouble, and, I don't know. It was just tough. Later on in the game, Washington was switching a lot. Lopez at first was just like, he was getting his size on, and then then at halftime, Westbrook and Beal, even though they're having a bad game, and Ish Smith, they're all carrying the Wizards. Celtics were getting killed on rebounds, but they were drawing fouls and hit more threes. Tatum and Kemba they were carrying the Celts. Everyone else looked in pain. And coming out of halftime, Tatum just heated up big time. There was energy on both sides of the ball. They're hitting threes. They were opening a gap with energy and threes dropping, as you do. They were getting great looks. They were moving the ball well. As they started to make shots, the Wizards then had to respect them. Westbrook started attacking hard. I had in my notes, I was like, where is Beal? And then next line, Beal, nice attack. Tristan Thompson just really seemed to be the key here. He was showing a lot of veteran leadership. I don't know. He was able to grab some crucial rebounds. He was just really slowing the game down. And he was just outplaying the Wizards bigs. At one point in the game, Davis Bertans just took a shot to the neck and just laid down, and he was actually just a corpse, and the Wizards were just like, okay, we're gonna just go at it. They literally didn't stop the game. It was kind of hilarious. I think he expected them to take a timeout. And at the end of the third quarter, Tatum was absolutely hooping. He had 23 in the third. He had 39 points on 25 shots. That eventually would go up to 50. And the Celtics were just, in my opinion, Celtics were just way better with Tristan Thompson. Wizards later in the game got into foul trouble. Then you started seeing some weird stuff from them. Robin Lopez was getting a lot of looks. It was you're running plays for Robin Lopez when Russell Westbrook and fucking Bradley Beal are on your team. Hell, even Ish Smith was doing shit, but no, I guess not. It's a Scott Brooks classic. You had some Russell Westbrook experience there, where it was 14 points on 14 shots at a certain point. But the Wizards were staying in it just a bit. Tatum then just turned it on, started to close. He got up to 50. Tristan Thompson just showing veteran leadership, not allowing the game to get too insane and not letting the Wizards in it. And at a certain point, the Wizards had Nato in the game. I respect Nato. He's a pro. He's made it in the NBA for a little while now. But he had 0 points at that point. It was why are you doing it? Scott Brooks, what are you doing? Please stop. Ish Smith had 17 off the bench. Come on now. Kemba had 26 on 23 shots. Not crazy efficient, but in single games, if you need somebody to step up, he stepped up. Tatum also stepped up. Beal and Westbrook, not so much. At first, in the beginning of the game, Wizards were using their size and athleticism. Second half foul trouble didn't allow that. Wizards were second, straight up. They're second in shooting by a mile. Celtics role players stepped up a little bit. And, Tatum had a great game. Next game, Spurs versus Grizzlies. These will be a little more sort of kept up. Not kept up, but I don't know. I was paying more attention to this because it wasn't a blowout by the end of the game. The pace was all over to start. Grizzlies were really pushing the pace. Spurs seemed unorganized and it was leading to easy buckets. They were losing on effort plays. At a certain point in the beginning of the game, there was a 19-2 run by the Grizzlies. The Spurs were getting okay looks, but they're just not falling, sadly. Ja had a good game, but I noticed that early in the game, at least, he was not attacking the mismatch. And if you're a Grizzlies fan, you're like, come on, dude, you're basically Russell Westbrook, but a little bit smarter in terms of basketball IQ. Come on, let's go. But the Grizzlies were able to get all they wanted. There's a Gorgie Jang appearance, but it didn't seem to help that much in the first half. Jonas Valanciunas was eating. I said that Rudy Gay needed to attack more, because it seemed like the Grizzlies couldn't handle it. But, I kind of take that back because the entire game, it seemed to just be DeRozan and Gay just trying to go one-on-one. Spurs started climbing back into it. They're getting good looks, good ball movement. They went on a 9-0 run at one point. The lead was down to less than 10. And then that 9-0 run turned into a 17-0 run, and that flipped when Jaren Jackson Jr. came back into the game. They as soon as he came back, Grizzlies were already looking better. The Grizzlies were making a good push. They're staying around, and at halftime, I literally wrote, I was like, Spurs shouldn't be in this. Not sure how they're in it. Grizz ahead only barely. Spurs D keeping them in this. Grizz need to get out and run. And Valanciunas, 16 points, 15 rebounds. It was fucking crazy. Third quarter start, San Antonio seemed to be attacking mid-range, and Grizzlies seemed sort of stuck on offense. The Spurs were moving the ball well. They're hitting their shots. They're getting to their spots. It was a weird quarter, though. There was a lot of free throws being taken, and, then eventually Josh sort of stepped up. He started making some nice shots. He needs to do more of that. Memphis defense just keeping them ahead. There's some Rudy Gay post-ups where I was like, maybe he shouldn't attack more after writing that down early. And then more of the stuff where it's like, oh, the Spurs, their shots are just not falling. They're getting looks they want. They're just not falling. More Gorgie Jang in that. And, Gorgie Jang actually sort of made a difference for the Spurs. He helped them stay in it. Grizzlies in transition looked great in the second half. Rudy Gay started to come to life though, and he was not hitting threes, but he had a couple threes, and he was facilitating. Mills hit a three that led it to 78-79 Grizz. And then the Spurs eventually started getting the shots to fall. It was 83-81. Josh started to slow it down, and when Josh slowed it down, the Grizzlies got a bucket. It was a great play, because he himself, I don't think he got an assist for it, but he slowed the game down, ran pick and roll, and they got a bucket. There was a lot at, starting the fourth quarter. There was a lot going bad for the Spurs, but they were still in it. Still in it. A couple threes exchanged. John Morant hit a nice couple shots. Grizzlies just rebounding really well. The Spurs were missing opportunities down the stretch. And they just weren't. And then Rudy Gay just a little too late. He was doing his thing, and then he wasn't. And then finally, the main event, what you've all been waiting for, Golden State and the Lakers. I loved this game. I'm gonna go off my notes for a sec. I loved this game. I thought this was incredible. And if you're Adam Silver, you're shitting yourself. You're shitting yourself in the best way, because you're like, wait, we just had this incredible game when all of these other play-in games have kind of been dog water. And I don't know. I just think it's great for the league. And watching the games, it was clear early that the level of basketball was just higher for this game. I mean, it's LeBron James, Anthony Davis against Steph Curry. Obviously, the basketball is going to be better. Anyway, getting into the game. Andrew Wiggins, just like he was hooping to start. He's playing great defense. He was hitting some of these turnarounds on LeBron James. The Lakers' defense on Steph was like, I mean, I don't know what you want me to say. It was crazy. It was crazy. They were blanketing him. It seemed like every time he touched the ball, there was just everyone around him. Draymond did not seem comfortable on offense at all, besides facilitating, in terms of trying to get a bucket. Draymond was not hooping. Lakers are a lot bigger, but it was weird. I don't know if it was malaise or whatever have you, but the Lakers were not hooping. Davis started 0 for 4. LeBron didn't seem 100%. They're getting out rebounded by Kevon Looney, and it was like, come on, man. Then Curry and Dre went off for a little bit in terms of off the court. Wiggins was doing enough And yeah, certain points, like LeBron was 1 for 7. It was like, come on, man. But I know I said Dre wasn't good on offense, but on defense, oh my God, he was showing up big time, like a truly vintage performance from Draymond Green. Like there's actually a couple times where I wrote Draymond Green ... Wow. Yeah. And then, the Lakers really started getting attacked when they brought out Andre Drummond on the court, and you could clearly see that the Warriors were like, oh, cool. Andre Drummond on the court, pick and roll. And as soon as Drummond went out, the Lakers started playing better. They started playing much better. Halftime, Davis was 2 for 12. LeBron 1 for 7. Schroeder 1 for 9. And in my head, I'm like, why is Dennis Schroeder taking more shots than LeBron? I understand this man's working for a contract right now, but come on now. You can't be doing this. Dubs were looking better when Wiggins was on the floor, just because, you can move the ball. And you can just Wiggins is a good defender, straight up. He's a great defender. And I just got to shout out Draymond Green. He just truly had a throwback performance. And then once the Lakers started getting comfortable, that's when, the defense ratcheted up, and, the Warriors were careless in the third. They were up by a good amount, and they had a lot of turnovers. LeBron started to heat up. Steph was hooping. Lakers were flying to start the fourth. And their defense, their defense was just the key to the turnaround. And they were up by 6. Lakers were up by 6 at a certain point. And then, Andrew Wiggins just all the credibility he had earned in the beginning of the game. He's just like, I don't know. There's a point in the fourth quarter where he had 3 straight possessions where it was either a turnover or just a bad shot. And it was like, dude, stop. I know you were a former first overall pick, but please just stop. And then he picked it up a little bit once LeBron got out of the game. Yeah, and down the stretch, it was just Curry getting absolutely blanketed, but he was still hitting shots just to help keep him in it. Draymond Green was facilitating this insane passing game. He was facilitating their offense, I guess. And I don't know. I think while Draymond is clearly not the player he used to be, he still deserves some credit. I know he just does not want to score at all, but I don't know. Deserves some credit. Down the stretch, LeBron was just like, fuck this. I'm doing this. The Warriors were up at a certain point, and Curry turned the ball over. Caruso had a really great steal there. And, then LeBron was just like, fuck it. This is my team. Let's go. And, he hits a go-ahead 3 with less than a minute to go. Hand in his face. Well, Curry's hand wasn't in his face, but yeah. Yeah, it was, crazy LeBron stuff. That shot is going to be in his highlight reel. You could put it in the NBA Top Shot, whatever. It was great. And it was really great to see this level of competition coming from, the play-in game, which had sort of, people were talking a lot of shit. And, I'm very happy that the results went the way they did. Real quick on the LeBron eye poke thing. I don't want to shit all over anyone, because he very well could have been seeing 3 rims, but I don't know. The flopping, the really playing it up. Who's that for? Who's that for? Is Maverick Carter being like, yo, Bron, hey man, were you really seeing 3 rims? Or is he like, I can't believe you did this? I know that's a take that a different podcaster had, but I don't know. As soon as I saw it, I was like, not a flagrant. Nope, not a flagrant. And it wasn't. And I know people say, oh, Draymond was reaching his hand. Blah, blah, blah. Draymond was just trying to contest. He's fucking going up against LeBron James. And, you can freeze frame all the photos you want. Be like, oh, look at this. He was going for it. Like, come on. Draymond's smarter than that. He knows not to do that shit. I mean, I say that, but this is also the guy who was kicking people in the nuts in the playoffs and got suspended for that. So, oh well. Yeah, just a couple more things. It was really crazy to see, like, the amount of attention and gravity just Steph Curry has. Like, literally on the last play, it was like Wes Matthews and Alex Caruso were, like, clinging on to him. And then Anthony Davis was there to help. And, Steph couldn't even take the final shot because Lakers defense was just so good. So, a credit to them. It was a great game to watch, though. All right, final game I'm going to be talking about, because this is definitely going over 15 minutes, but it's a special episode, so you can't blame me. I'm just doing my thing, man. So yesterday's matchup was Pacers versus Wizards. I don't really want to go over my notes because there's not a whole lot here, because the Wizards just blew them the fuck out. It was 142-115 final score. Sabonis had a triple-double, but it actually didn't matter. Westbrook was actually, he was good. He was 18, 8, and 15 on 6 of 13 shooting. If I'm looking at that, I'm like, yeah, I'm so happy with that. He only took 1 3-pointer. Beal had 25 on 17 shots. And it just seemed to be some balanced scoring by the Wizards. Again, I don't want to get too much into it because it was actually just a blowout for most of the game. And so, I'm not going to say I was tuning out, but I wasn't watching as closely as I should have. I think the Wizards are a great story for why the play-in games should matter. They started off like 3-15 on the season. They were wrecked with COVID stuff the entire time. They were wrecked with this, that, and the third. And, they had the 10th seed to play for. They're like, you know what? Nah, we're hooping. We're grabbing this. Maybe it wasn't the 10th seed. What? It was the 8, because Hornets were in the 10th. Either way. It was an incredible effort by them. And, I know Westbrook just absolutely exploded down the stretch, but they still deserve a lot of credit for fighting. And I don't know if they would have fought if it was a regular playoff layout. Who the fuck knows? But it was still really incredible to see, like, oh, this is potentially some of the good that the playoff or play-in game can bring. Because the play-in, not technically the playoffs yet, which I don't understand. It's only 2 extra games. Like, come on, guys, just add it. Anyway, final thoughts on that. I actually do think that Philadelphia is gonna. I don't think they're gonna lose, but I think they'll lose at least 1 or 2 games. Just in terms of going up against the Wizards, because I think the Wizards kind of match up well. They have sort of the manpower, and I'm not going to say they have the size to deal with Embiid, because Embiid, I don't know, it hasn't been shown that you can really stop Embiid, but still good stuff either way. I think tonight the Warriors are going to win. Because you can't replicate the Lakers' defensive style that they put on Steph. So I'm not saying Steph is going to go off for 49, but I think Steph could go off for 49 tonight. Yeah. And this has been What Happened This Week. Little bit of a different format. I'm sort of toying with some stuff that I want to do for what happened this week going forward, just because it's the NBA playoffs and once a week may not be enough. So, keep your eyes open for potential recaps and all of that good shit, because who knows? My Nets are in the playoffs, and yeah. I'm also going to be recording next week's episode on Saturday, so that's tomorrow, because your boy is taking a little vacation and I will not be able to record a podcast while I'm on vacation. So I hope y'all enjoy that. It won't be too modern in terms of things that have happened, but it's going to be a great one. I'm going to leave it up to a surprise, though, because I don't want to spoil anything. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Clancy Podcasts. What happened this week? Make sure you are following, liking, subscribing, listening to previous episodes. Hit us up if you got any podcast ideas or you want to appear on the podcast. We're very open to that kind of stuff, so, let us know. And thank you again for listening. We really appreciate it. Numbers for the podcast have actually been really great, so shout out to everyone who's been listening. It, feels good, man. Feels good. So thank you all. Hope you're having a great day, evening, night, dusk, or dawn, whenever you're listening. Thank you so much. Make sure you're getting your shots, and have a good one. Peace.